Neale, firstly, thanks for joining us here at Town. We're here to discuss the 2019 season so far. Most recently, of course, a defeat against Cavan. How did you see that game when it must have been a difficult one to take?
Yeah, it was difficult, you know. It's always hard to take any kind of loss, but we've been on a good run, and unfortunately it came to an end on last Saturday. Cabo were good. They're just, you know, they're not at the top of the table for a reason. It was a tough game for us, and we just didn't really play that well, didn't get going, lost too much possession of the ball, and we kept getting counter-attacked, and ultimately it cost us.
Longford on a fine run, 10 without defeat. Sean Brennan aims it to the back post. MacDonald got ahead to it. Hopkins finds Byrne, angles it into the box. This time it's Breslin at the back post. Just misses out.
You're at this stage of the season now, quite far into the season now, and only 2 defeats. That must be better than what you must have imagined before.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's even though you're saying we're a little bit into the season, it doesn't feel it. It feels like we're only just starting because, you know, we don't play that many games in the First Division. You know, we've only played 11 so far, and like you say, we lost in a cup away to Derry with, you know, trying to give lads a game. So even though you are only just going into the season, it feels like, you know, we're only just going, you know, and we just need to keep the momentum going, keep getting results, and see where it takes us. Last
season there was a couple of games there which Longford were famed for, obviously playing their fantastic football, the style of play, but often sometimes on the wrong side of the results. This season there seems to be a bit more resilience there. Is that something you've worked on in pre-season, brought into this campaign? Yeah,
I think, you know, I looked at the teams that got promoted last year. UCD obviously were a level above everybody else. Could we replicate UCD? Probably not with the players they had. And you know, you've only got to look where they went. One went to Cork, one went to Derry, one went to Dundalk. Our players weren't going to go to those clubs straight away. So could we reach that kind of level with those players? Probably not. Who's the next team that got promoted? Finn Harps. Why did they get promoted? Solid defence. So we made it our kind of mission this season to try and get some experienced defenders in, some good defenders, and be a little bit more solid, not be so open to counter-attacks. Still try and play, still try and be progressive, and still try and attack, but mindful that we need to make sure we don't concede when we're doing it.
Breslin with the free kick, plenty to aim for. Aaron Dobbs got his head on it. Again, McGuinness was equal to it. Sam Verdon late on, takes a nick and it's up and over the bar.
Yeah. How long ago did that work for this season start? Was it already ongoing last season to that recruitment campaign already begin?
You're always looking at players, you're always looking at who can improve you, who's probably not doing as well as you thought in your own squad. So by the time, you know, what it's like every manager's the same at the end of the season, it's open season, almost everybody's out of contract. So we're all meeting the same players, we're all chatting to the same players, all trying to get the ones who we think did well against us. Is there anybody from the Premier Division that wants to drop down, who's got relegated? Just little things like that. You come up with lists and lists and lists. You meet as many of them as you can, try and get face to face with them. Unfortunately you get some, and unfortunately you don't get others, but we were happy with the recruitment that we did. Started pre-season, and you could just tell during pre-season we just looked a little bit more solid. We had a very good pre-season, and it continued into the start of the campaign.
How difficult is it as a manager, especially in the First Division, where the motivation to play needs to be high? It can be a difficult league to play, and how difficult can it be to assess those players and where their head might be at coming into that?
Yeah, I think most of them want to play. They're not motivated by anything else. The fact they want to play, if they can get paid for doing it, then that's great. But most of them want to play. It depends on the level of commitment that they want to make to it. That's what I found the most. We train 3 nights a week and a game. So some lads don't want to train 3 nights a week. That's just, you know, that's their prerogative. That's fine. But we need them to train 3 nights a week. And we obviously play our matches on a Saturday night, which didn't suit some players as well. They didn't want to play matches on a Saturday night, which is fine again. So, you know, you're just trying to get as many players as you can to buy into what you're doing. If they buy into it and you can agree terms with them, then that's fantastic.
And obviously the supporters are buying into it a little bit more as well. The attendances are up at Longford, and I suppose on the back of this under 17s championships as well, people coming through the gates. That's great to see.
Yeah, I think the whole, you know, not just me coming, but you know, the kind of media department and the ground staff there make sure that the pitch is fantastic, the ground looks well, it's well kept. Obviously the media department, James Donnelly does his thing as well. The chairman's very proactive in whatever we need. He'll try and get for us. So, you know, from that side of it, the background is fantastic at Longford. So it's up to us now to make sure that we reach those levels on the pitch, which, you know, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't.
And those fans have been treated to a really competitive division this year. Did you see it being this competitive at the start of the campaign?
No, obviously, at the very start, no. But then you start seeing the squads, teams are assembling, and you kind of think probably at the start of the season, Shells, and you know, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to deflect pressure onto them, but they would have, the two squads you would have looked at, Shells and Bray, and gone, they're going to be decent. Obviously Drogheda, who, you know, a very good team as well, thought they would do well as well again, and obviously the surprise of Cabinteely that have gone off to a flyer.
And then obviously there's many other teams there who, not up the leagues, but they've all got players who seemingly could hurt teams on their given day, and that's something which has always got to be watched out for, and wasn't necessarily the case last year. No,
last year we had you had a few weaker teams, but this year, you know, we struggled away to Wexford. They're very organised. Brian's got them really well organised and dangerous. Some good front players, Jack Doherty and Danny Furlong. So it's going to be, you've always got to be watch out for them at the back as well. And obviously Athlone have got an exciting number of attackers. So they're, you know, you've got to be careful playing against them. So it's very competitive.
I suppose it's great to, as a Midlands football club, I suppose it's great to see Athlone coming back to some sort of form and to reignite that rivalry. Is a good thing for Irish football. Yeah,
the rivalry was a little bit dead when I first got there, and you know, Athlone was struggling a little bit. But this season certainly there's been a lot more. Seems to be a lot more rivalry anyway. There's a better crowd when we played down there. It gives our fans, you know, a rival to kind of go up against, and yeah, you know, the more healthy teams we've got in the division and the better teams you've got in the division, you get more crowds. It creates a little bit more excitement.
Now we're into your second season of management. How are you finding it?
I find it, you know, I enjoy it as much as I did at the start. There are times when it is a little bit tough and you're maybe getting a little bit frustrated with it, but you know, I still enjoy doing it. I still love doing it, and I don't regret getting into it at all.
Is there any lessons you would have told yourself a few years ago, which a year or so ago, which you've learnt now? Is there anything which you would have told that person?
Yeah, I would have maybe kind of thought that the first division is probably different from the Premier Division, a lot different from the Premier Division, and you know, try and maybe consolidate that a little bit and be a little bit more. What's the word I'm trying to find? Try and get promoted or try and get out of the division by any means necessary, rather than doing it how I thought I was going to do it.
It's interesting because obviously before you came over to Longford, the little bit of management experience you had was obviously at Leyton Orient, and that was a crazy time over there. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that obviously assistant manager back then? Yeah, I just got a call out of the blue from my friend Omer, who'd been given the job for the last, I think it was 6 games. Do you want to come over and be my assistant until the end of the season? He didn't exactly tell me how bad the background scene was. So I normally I would have said no, but I don't know, maybe just caught me at the right time, and I said, okay, I'll come and help you out. It wasn't far, Orient's not far from where I grew up, so I could kind of stay at home and just go from there. And I really enjoyed it, even though it was, you know, very difficult. The players hadn't got paid and weren't getting paid and couldn't get hold of the chairman, and you know, really difficult circumstances. But I just really enjoyed it. I loved every minute of it. Yeah, and obviously many years ago, obviously now you made that move over to Ireland to play. What inspired that move to come over here? Obviously you're underage international for Ireland, but what was at the core of that? I'd been really or paid up by Peterborough, to kind of mutual agreement to leave. So I was just floating around really. I'd been to Stevenage and didn't really like it there on trial, and just kind of toying with the idea of maybe not playing football, maybe going part-time a little bit, and seeing where that took me, and you know, like the usual, get a job or whatever. And Dan Connor, who you guys know works for the FAI now, he gave me a call. He was at Waterford at the time. I said, what are you doing? Because he was at Peterborough with me. He said, what are you doing? I said, not sure yet, just got released and blah, blah, blah. So he said, come over here and give it a go till the end of the season. And I did that, and then fortunately got Pat Dolan signed me for Cork, and that was it. I started enjoying football again and started kind of playing okay again, and then moved on to Bowes and the rest. Yeah, and some fantastic, European nights as well at that Cork and obviously at Bowes. Did you ever expect it to be so good for you?
Probably not. No, I think that I kind of made my debut for Tottenham at 19, and then when I had a good successful spell at Norwich on loan, and kind of thought I'd probably sign there, didn't, and then kind of didn't do anything for about 3 or 4 years. Literally sat in the reserves at Tottenham for 3 years, and then went to Peterborough. Enjoyed it initially, but then kind of stopped enjoying it there as well, and stopped playing and wasn't getting in the team. So yeah, it was, for about 5 years I literally did not a lot. So it was great to be back playing and back enjoying it, and we had some good players at Cork, and I made some good friendships there as well.
Yeah. What do you think is your ideally placed, obviously as a fantastic player, but now as a manager, what do you see as special about the League of Ireland, about the SC Electricity League?
I just think that for players coming back to England, or back from England, or coming over from England, you're kind of from the position where I was, where you're kind of forgotten and you're a kind of an outcast. You come here, you've got people talking to you again. There's a little bit of press. There's obviously, if you're in the Premier Division, there's obviously a TV programme as well, which for most lads that probably wouldn't have happened for a few years. There's no kind of reserve highlight show. So just those type of things, it gets you kind of in the public eye again. And when you're playing well, you're in the papers. You can see people talking about it, and it makes you feel good, and it kind of reignites your kind of love for the game again. Where most lads who are coming back from England or have been left out of squads, it's probably the one thing that they've always had the ability. It's probably just they've kind of lost their way a little bit.
Yeah. Have you seen obviously since being a player, more recently, obviously more younger players coming into the 2 divisions with the underage setup? How have you seen the style of football maybe progress in the league?
I think the style of football is. I'm not sure if it's going to full circle again, but there was a time when it was playing out from the back. Everybody had to do that. I'm not sure if teams are moving a little bit away from that again. I've seen under 17s championship matches, and they kind of moved totally away from it. So it's difficult to say style of play. Every manager's got his own kind of style and philosophy of what he wants to do. You've got to take into account the players you've got, the pitches you've got before you start kind of what type of pressure you're under before you can talk about styles of playing at. But there's certainly some good attacking teams in the league. Obviously, look no further than Dundalk are full of very exciting players, and you've got at the moment Shamrock Rovers with some excellent midfielders. So the quality of players there. It's just trying to make that next step up there into doing it in Europe.
There's a lot of clubs like yourself who's been able to bring in players from the underage system and be able to affect the first team. That sort of thing wasn't happening a few years ago. How much involvement do you have looking down those lower levels into the under-17s, under-19s, even maybe under-15s and 13s?
From at Longford, it's a little bit difficult because we're not based in, the 17s and the 15s are based in Longford, and we're kind of split away from it. So I don't get to see them that much, which is a shame. Teams like obviously Bowes, for example, where they've got a great youth structure with St Kevin's, and they're reaping the rewards from that now, where they're getting players back, and their first team now they can, as we've seen before, they can leave players out and bring in, great players coming in their place and can make changes. So, it's great to have that youth system. It doesn't work for every club. It's not great for every club, or not every club's seeing the benefits of it. But Bowes would be the team at the moment that's certainly seeing that.
Yeah, but having those two, the under-17s and the 15s based in Longford, what that's probably doing as well at the same time, even if it isn't producing yourself players, even if players drop out of the system, it's producing people with an affinity towards their local club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you speak to a lot of clubs and they're kind of split away from the schoolboy clubs in that area. It happens I know Galway have had a little bit of a problem with that, where the junior clubs in that area kind of split away and kind of resentful of them. But if it brings everybody in Longford together and they can cheer a team full of local lads playing in the Electricity League underage, then that's brilliant for everybody.
Yeah. Looking on to the rest of the season, obviously the major test now coming up is Galway. Obviously played them yet this season. How do you see that one going?
I have no idea. No, we haven't played them before. I've got a couple of videos of them that I've seen. So I went to watch them at Tolka Park as well, and they'll be like a lot of teams in this division, hard-working, young, with a couple of experienced players thrown in. Won't give up. Will play for their manager. and we'd be dangerous, just like most teams, every team in this division, dangerous, and we'll have to just make sure that we're at it 100%. So it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, just looking back on last season, you were very good on certain runs of form last year. You went on fantastic runs, and what do you think you need to do this year to make that run of form continue to stick throughout?
Yeah, it's interesting because last year we kind of went on we had some great results, and then we'd lose a silly game. And then we'd go on another little bit of a run, and we just needed a little bit of consistency. We needed a little bit of being able to grind out a result. I can't remember us doing that once last year where we grind out a result. When we won a game, it's because we deserved to win it. Now this season, I think you speak to any manager in the league so far that we've played, they probably felt they were in the game for long periods of time and possibly could have nicked it here and there. But last year, I've spoke to some managers who said that we played them off the park or whatever. So I don't think we've done that this year. I think we're just more resilient at grinding out results and getting the job done better than last year. And a lot of the time, that's what you need to do.
And just as the whole, finally, with the First Division, how far away do you think the step up is from the First Division to the Premier Division? Seeing what obviously has happened to Finn Harps this year and UCD obviously down there, how difficult do you think that is to step up? I
think it's to get into the Premier Division is quite difficult. To stay there is very, very difficult. You've only got to look at Finn Harps and UCD. UCD obviously have lost a lot of players, but Finn Harps got promoted and rightly so, went on some amazing runs. Probably kept most of their squad together, made a couple of additions, and are not doing great this season. So it's massively difficult. And if we do get promoted, or if one of the teams from our division does get promoted, they'll find it very hard, especially against the top half of the Premier Division. Those teams with the finances and the infrastructure and everything else will be pulling away from the bottom. Well, the bottom of the First Division definitely, but certainly from the top half of the First Division too.
And I suppose you were just dreaming of lifting that title at the end of the season, leading this team into the Premier Division.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the kind of the chairman's wanted us to get promoted last season. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it, but he was kind of, well, listen, I've enjoyed this season. You've played well. I think with a couple of things you could have tweaked here and there, you probably would have gone up. He does like telling me where I have gone wrong. So I'm sure that to do it for him and to do it for the town, it would be great, because he's been the one backing it and really wants us to go up. So there'd be a lot of teams probably worried about getting promoted. We wouldn't be. We'd be ready to go, and you can only tell by everything around the club's geared up, ready for it. We just need to try and do it on the pitch and try and keep getting results and stay in the mix.
Well, Neale, really best of luck for the rest of the season. Thanks for coming in, and I hope it works out for you.
Cheers, Karen.